Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. Never Should Have Colonized Mars by Tempted. In the not-so-distant future, humanity sets its sight on a new frontier, Mars. The advancement in technology and the quest for exploration drove scientists, engineers, and adventurers to dream of colonizing the Red Planet. They visioned a new world, a second chance for humanity, and the opportunity to expand beyond the confines of Earth. Little did they know that their ambitious dreams would unleash a horror beyond their wildest nightmares. In the year 2040, the first manned mission to Mars successfully landed on the barren surface of the planet. The crew, filled with excitement and hope, began to establish the first settlement known as Mars Base 1. Everything seemed promising at first. The atmosphere was thin but breathable, and with the help of advanced terraforming techniques, they managed to create a livable environment within the dome structures. Months turned into years, and Mars Base 1 grew in size and complexity. More settlers arrived, bringing their hopes and dreams of a new world. But as the settlement expanded, strange occurrences began to unfold. Crew members reported unexplainable sounds echoing through the corridors at night, eerie shadows flickering across their peripheral vision, and a deep sense of unease that hung over the entire base. One by one, crew members started to experience inexplicable physical and psychological anomalies. Migraines plagued them, sleep became elusive, and their once vibrant spirits were replaced by a sense of despair and dread. The colony's medical team struggled to find a cause for these afflictions, but their efforts proved fruitless. Some began to speculate that the planet itself was somehow to blame, a malevolent force lurking beneath the surface, biding its time. As time went on, the anomalies escalated. Equipment malfunction leading to accidents and near catastrophes. Strange apparitions appeared in the corner of crew members' vision, only to vanish when they turned to face them. It became clear that Mars was not the pristine frontier they had imagined. It was desolate, haunted wasteland. Whispers spread among the settlers, talk of a dark history that Mars had kept hidden. It was said that eons ago, a technologically advanced civilization had thrived on the Red Planet, but their relentless pursuit of progress had come at a great cost. They delved too deep into forbidden knowledge, awakening an ancient evil that consumed their society and left only ruins and echoes of their existence. As the tales grew more pervasive, so did the terrors that plagued Mars Base 1. Crew members reported waking up to find ancient symbols etched into their skin, as if a mysterious force had marked them for unknown purpose. Nightmares invaded their sleep, vivid visions of monstrous entities lurking just beyond the veil of reality. Desperation set in as the settlers realized they were trapped in a circle of fear and torment. Attempts to return to Earth failed as each spacecraft set for Earth mysteriously vanished upon reaching Mars' orbit. They were abandoned, left to face the horrors of the Red Planet alone. Eventually, the settlers turned on each other, driven to madness by the unrelenting presence that haunted them. Friends became enemies, and the once thriving colonies ascended into chaos and bloodshed. The once promising venture had become a nightmare that consumed the souls of its inhabitants. Mars became a graveyard, a testament to the folly of humanity's hubris. The survivors, if any remained, hid in the shadows, haunted by the knowledge that they had brought this darkness upon themselves. They had learned the hard way that some places were never meant to be colonized, that some frontiers should forever remain untouched. And so, the tale of Mars Base 1 serves as a chilling warning to those who dare to dream of colonizing the Red Planet. The horrors that await those are beyond comprehension, and those who seek to conquer Mars may find themselves succumbing to an evil force that knows no bounds. Let it be a reminder that some boundaries should never be crossed, for the consequences are too terrifying to fathom. Some monsters are bound by rules, like not being able to enter a home without permission or being unable to move while observed. The humans seem to think these rules are superstitional laws that we must obey, rather than self-imposed challenges. The Data Eater by Carrier 3 is. After a weapons test spiraled out of control, the world found itself embroiled in a bitter war of armatrition with an ever-growing army of war machines. There wasn't a single strategy that worked. Bullets, after the first wave, they came back with reinforced armor. Napalm, they installed fire extinguishers and crash cooling systems. Nukes worked for a while, but once they figured out the EMP shielding, they just flipped themselves back over and kept on marching. Day after day, we had to watch helplessly from our command center as people were slaughtered in the thousands and trampled into unrecognizable mush by row after row of machine spiders, intent on achieving some horrific and unknown objective. China was the first to fall, albeit slowly. As effective as they were, even giant killer robots have their work cut out for them with a population of 2 billion. Slowly but surely, though, the numbers rose and we end up having to install a new counter to account for all the deaths. At first, we thought they would be the ones to stop the advance. Beijing had no qualms about hitting that big red button and nuking a few million of their own people to buy some time, but it only sped things up in the end. Hong Kong fell first, followed by Shanghai. From there, one city after the next was wiped off the map, either by a bot or a sub launching Long March 5. Even without access to their surveillance cameras, we could see the country growing darker and darker every day. When the first wave made its way over the western hills, we knew it was over. The impenetrable wall of tanks and artillery was wiped out within an hour, with nothing but mangled bodies and burned wrecks left behind. In the hopes that we could at least gain some actionable intel, we watched the formerly most popular nation in the world die in high definition. The remainder of the People's Army was torn to shreds in mere minutes. Some poor young soldier was dissected by a chain gun as he vainly fired away with his old Russian Diska, earning the dubious distinction of being the last offender of China. With the last threat neutralized, the bots swarmed into the surroundings in seemingly empty lots. After they took their places, they parted ranks and allowed an unusual-looking bot with a giant drill to come through. Unlike its brethren, it had a long cylinder fixed to its backside. When it reached the center of the lot, it activated its drill and plunged into the earth. For a few hours, we could only see plumps of dirt being kicked up from the hole. Then it happened. Like the tide running before a tsunami, all the guards suddenly retreated to the hills. After a few moments later, an orange glow began to emit from the hole. The surrounding dirt began to melt before the entire area was engulfed in a huge fireball. Apparently, they had discovered nukes. China was no more. Before the ash had even settled, they set their sights on Pyongyang and Moscow. Same results, both ending with a hole in the ground followed by a fireball. Every week, another country disappeared and our hopes of any kind of victory vanished. One day, the red phone rang. The president told us that all of Europe and Asia was gone. Following the conference with the remaining world leaders, he said everyone was in agreement that it was time for a Hail Mary. All of the world's resources were at our disposal, and all options were on the table. We only had one objective: save humanity. It was clear no amount of bullets, bombs, or nukes would stop them. We knew that from what we had saw in China. With seemingly no other option, we turned to the only option we had left: information. All cyber attacks had failed thus far, but the bots, soon bent on winning the war in our domain, hadn't put much effort into attacking our networks. We set the eggheads to work immediately. Based on the simulations, pretty much every trick we had would have been a dud, and, more worryingly, could finally push the bots to turn to cyberspace as well. Just as we saw the pyramids being trampled to dust, one of the researchers got an idea. If we're fighting a computer that can beat us at every turn, we just need to send an equally smart program after it. The idea was almost stupidly simple. Send out another bot that can chase down the enemy and attack the data that was its lifeblood. For all their combat prowess, the bots were nothing without a sea of ones and zeros that allowed them to make sense of our world. The program's function was simple. It would devour every bit of data it would find, and in doing so, starve the tireless machine army that was making its way towards us. When he finished his presentation, the room was dead silent. It sounded promising, but we knew it meant we would completely neuter ourselves in the process. If it worked the way we intended, the only area we matched the bots in would be gone. No more satellites, no more comms, nothing. Considering the fate that was awaiting us, though, we figured we might as well give it a shot. We had the Data Eater, as we came to call it, ready in under a week. Even though every hacker and software engineer in what was left of the world was working on it, we didn't even have time to run a bug check on it. Without a moment to lose, we prepared to set it loose. At a press of a button, we dropped a proverbial shield to ensure that our little monster had the best chance of success it possibly could. Every firewall and security measure around the world was disabled, and every communication device we still had access to was set to let the Data Eater run free. A single command set it off, spraying it far and wide. Every satellite, cell tower, and mobile device in the world came under its control, spanning its digital tentacles through all of cyberspace. Almost instantly, our command center went dark as the digital gremlin ate its way through the most fundamental layers of our electronic devices. Blind to our outside world, all we could do was sit and wait while we stared at blank white screens in front of us. 3 weeks later, a runner showed up at our doors. A ship loaded to the gills with bots showed up at Staten Island, but only a single bot staggered out. It moved its gun as if it wanted to aim at something, but then it collapsed. In the following weeks, similar reports trickled in from other places. 3 months later, it was confirmed. The bots were down. July 7th was declared VB Day in recognition of the last of the world's continents being confirmed as liberated. We still were in the dark, but no one cared. We won. As the festives wore down, we visited the command center one last time to say goodbye and seal it for good. The monitor was still showing their grainy white screens, starving for instructions. Almost as if on cue, a dusty TLX terminal suddenly sprung to life. After we got over the shock, we heard it hum as sheets of paper inched its way out of the printer. We all ran over to see what was coming out. As quickly as it started, it stopped. There was a single line of text on the printout. "You forgot something." The white screens were flooded with images from all over the world, showing people withering in pain caused by some unknown attack. In that very moment, a member of our group broke out into a coughing fit. That coughing quickly turned to wrenching as he vomited some thick, reddish substance. We all jumped back instinctively, repulsed by the sight in front of us. Our disgust turned to horror as his features began to sag and his skin and muscles began to slide off his bones, spilling all over the floor with a wet splat. The kneeling skeleton, surrounded by blood and viscera, began to lose its shape as well, dropping to the pile. The footage on screen cut out and was replaced by a pixelated animation. A long strand of DNA disintegrated into a stream of ones and zeros, which was devoured by a set of gnawing teeth on the other side of the screen. In what could have only been a taunt at our foolish oversight, a laptop that had been sitting dormant blinked on. The screen was filled with a wall of code scrolling by at lightning speed. All at once it stopped. The head of the development team sprinted over to examine it. He didn't say a word, but when he suddenly covered his mouth, we all knew something was wrong. He started blabbering a bunch of computer terms nobody understood until our military liaison smacked him on the head and said, "Get to the damn point." Taken aback by the hard reset, he took a moment to compose himself. With a forlorn look on his face, he said, "We designed the program to seek out any data it could find and destroy it by any means necessary. The problem is, we never told it when to stop." "How the hell does that explain Jones turned into a puddle?" he shouted. "Well," he stammered, "at its most basic level, DNA is kind of data as well." When those last words left his mouth, his lips melted off. The rest of his face followed suit before he collapsed to the floor and dissolved like our other colleague. The room fell into a stunned silence. No one dared move, afraid to see what might happen next. Suddenly, one of our female colleagues screamed. She was holding a clump of her hair in her hands, at the end of which was a thick red slime was dripping off. When the hair once was, more of the red slime was dripping out. She appeared to be weeping blood before her eyes dissolved and flowed out of their sockets. She attempted to scream again, only for a disgusting gurgle to come out instead. She unsteadily fell to her knees as the rest of her body began to break down. Within a minute, she was reduced to a puddle of slime. Apparently, the data eater had fine-tuned its method. Our camouflage-clad colleague charged the laptop, convinced he could stop this massacre by smashing it. After he smashed it with a single blow, he was also liquefied. The rest of the group followed suit, collapsing as they struggled in vain to fight off the invisible assault. As the last of the group fell, I felt something running down my cheek, hoping somehow it wasn't my skin dissolving. When I touched it with my hand, it felt sticky. My hand was completely covered in red when I looked at it. At that same moment, the vision in my left eye had gone blurry before going completely black. Something, no doubt the eye in question, ran down the front of my face. Seconds later, my legs gave out, the muscles completely eaten away. I fell to one side and felt a sickly sloshing feeling as my organs were pureed inside me. I wasn't going to make it either. My body frantically attempted to keep itself running despite the lack of working parts. Just as my vision started to fade in my remaining eye, the animation changed. Radio waves were bombarding the nucleus, causing it to disintegrate into ones and zeros. The message was clear. To finish off its meal, the Data Eater was going to devour the Earth. On paper, he was a perfect gentleman all night. I never opened my own door. He was polite and asked interesting questions. I didn't pay for anything, and he didn't push for a kiss goodnight. I still can't say that I'm a fan of alien abductions. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. First of all, I'd like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. I truly loved both of the reads, the first one being about Mars and its dark past that we don't know about because it was so long ago. One of my favorite, stories or theories, I'm not sure what you would call it, is the fact that we are a colony from people that originally lived in Mars and we're actually Space Australia, aka a prison planet. I kind of found that amusing, that we outlived the original or something. Just a fun little joke thing. And then the second one about the robots that wanted to kill all of humanity. It kind of made me remember Horizon Zero Dawn, but going a completely different route where humans were successful. Kind of. And it's one of those stories you can kind of foresee that we're going to screw up by overseeing something, like having basically an off switch. It might be an overdone trope in sci-fi, but it's a very realistic trope, to be honest. Humans in general are very intelligent, but can be so stupid to overlook very simple things, like having an off switch. We had a disaster. It was an unmanned space something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it didn't work because they had goofed on the conversion of something. It was something very simple, and it cost millions and millions of dollars, if not $1 billion. So to me, it's very realistic to overthink something so simple as maybe having an off switch, especially when you're being rushed because the thing is coming to kill you. And killing everything else at the same time. You start cutting some corners. Second of all, if you have a story that you would like me to narrate, you can send it to me 3 different ways. I have a subreddit, an email, and a link on my website as well. All the links are in the description box / show notes for you guys. Now, if you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And of course, I would love a comment. Tell me what you thought as well, what kind of stories you like in the future, anything at all. I truly enjoy it. If you're listening on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review. And if you're on Spotify, you can actually leave a comment now as well. If you'd like to help this channel / podcast grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. It helps my voice and these stories get out to more people who might enjoy them. I'd also like to thank my patrons and members for your support. Thank you guys so much. If you'd like to support this channel / podcast, you can do that by either doing those 2 things, or I do have PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Super Thanks on YouTube. As always, none of this is ever expected, but always appreciated. I truly just enjoyed narrating these stories for you guys, and knowing that I get to see basically the same faces over and over again is pretty awesome. I'm really happy you guys enjoy the stories I bring to life for you. Sleep tight, and don't let 42 bite.